Yeah.
was your thought process, and how did you think when you were entering into that professional career?
I'll be honest, Tim. I had a really unfair advantage. I was kind of groomed from childhood. My uncle, he was a part owner or a major influence in Design Essentials, which is now I want to say it's a $2 or $3 billion corporation now. And I had a chance to learn from him very early on. And my dad has a massive work ethic, so does my mom, and we were really raised to work. So I started a grass cut business when I was 12 years old, and I didn't know I was scaling it, but I scaled it from 12 to 14, so about 3 or 4 seasons. And for me going into the workforce, that was the impetus of me understanding how to interact with other people, do deals, make things happen. So Tim, ever since I was a little boy, I always knew I would be a CEO. I didn't know how or what, but I knew I would be a CEO. I knew I would be someone that would be the visionary and someone that would actually be making these decisions and so forth. So I had to find a way to get there because being a CEO is not cheap and it's definitely not easy to do. And so for me, I just to give you my career line, I started at 12 years old cutting grass in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I did that for 3 seasons, and the grass cutting season in North Carolina is actually pretty long. It's from like March to I would say now about September timeframe. And so I did that, and then in the fourth quarter, October, all the way until like the middle of the first, I rake leaves and stuff like that. That keeps the constant money coming
Right.
in. And then I employed two of my friends, and then they started cutting the grasses for me. And that's when I really found that if I can offer opportunities and jobs for other people, that not only can I make revenue, but I also can share the pot too. So I've always been a pot sharer, even now in the firm that I currently run. And so, fast forward, I worked in fast food as a teenager. I worked in grocery stores. I always had a job, always had a job. So and I always had leadership positions in those jobs. And when I got to college, things changed because I was so used to having a job, having income, to now I'm just focused on football and focused on schoolwork. I worked at the bookstore part-time, which is pretty cool. I managed their inventory and their financial management, stuff like that. But Tim, I decided to join the Army. I decided to go in because I wanted to differentiate myself from my peers. I was 19 years old, and I knew if I served my country and was able to get out and tell the story, that the rest of my life would be made. I knew that for sure. And I knew that going into it, there would be an opportunity to either do 20 years or to do 5 and get out and do something even better. So that's what I did. I went to the Army, and I literally maximized every opportunity, from deploying to Iraq to redeploying back to Germany to going to Fort Lewis. Everywhere I went, I was always shaking hands and kissing babies and making relationships. And those things just, I didn't know it was kissing babies and shaking hands at the time, but now, being almost 40 years old, I'm like, that's what I was politicking at age 20
Yeah.
years old. I was making those relationships. And now some of those guys, or some of those guys and girls, are my biggest advocates. So for me, it was much different. I was groomed. I came from a family that, were into business, and my uncle was a really big part of that. He was a multimillionaire at the time, and I just was always around influence and capital, and just understood things from a very early age, and understood work ethic, understood that things are not free. You have to go out and earn it and take it and that kind of thing. So, for me, when I got into the workforce, I think my disappointment was that I was, behaving as a CEO, but my title was not CEO. My title was junior
Right.
guy, or that kind of thing. So it helped me move the ladder up pretty quick, even when I was in the federal government. But obviously, I got the chance to be a CEO like I am now, and started this company 11 years ago, and here we are. So a
Well,
little different than most people, I'll say.